It's adventure time! I'm going out on the Talaria again with some friends, and I'm going to be showing you how well the Talaria works, and as well I'm towing the Talaria to the destination in my Tesla Model S. I'm going to be giving you the stats of both the towing and of the Talaria. We are going to a place called 5 Mile Pass. We're going to be driving around over to this point right there, and this is a off-roading trail area that's more like open dry desert versus the forested mountains that we've been doing. And you can see over here it's estimating 32 more minutes before we get there, 23 more miles, and that we'll get there with 66% on the Tesla battery. If you look over here, you can see the battery is currently at 78% and it was at 80% when I left home. And then also the Talaria is at 90% on the battery. And also one thing that's fun is we can see the trailer right behind us right now as it's towing the Talaria up there on it. And so I just keep this up when I'm driving so I can keep my eye on the bike and make sure that everything's all right. Now this Tesla that I'm towing with is a Tesla Model S, which doesn't come with the ability to tow from the manufacturer. I added a trailer hitch from Torquelift, and I'll put a card above to that video I made about how I did that. But that makes this car be able to tow. And the Torquelift trailer hitch says that it can take up to 300 pounds of tongue weight and 2,000 pounds of trailer weight. Now this trailer behind me is a really small utility trailer, and then the Talaria is only 145 pounds. So we're way below any towing limit, so it pulls behind this car like a dream. Like the cliche is that it's like it's not even back there, which is actually fairly true. The number one way that I can tell that it's behind me is just it kind of rattles around as it's hitting bumps on the road, if the road is bumpy. And also one note is that obviously when you are towing, there is increased drag and aerodynamic drag, for instance, and extra weight that the car is pulling forward. So the efficiency of the drive will not be as good. So it's estimating that we'll get there with 66%. It'll likely be more like 64% would be my guess. Where we're going is largely flat, but there is some terrain change as well. Now some people might ask, why isn't your Talaria at 100%? And typically I actually would charge it to 100%. I was at kids soccer games this morning and forgot to plug it in before we left, and it was down to 52% from yesterday's ride. And so it got up to 90% before we left, and that's actually plenty fine because where we're heading, we have some kids going, and we're not going to be doing some really hardcore riding today. It's more just exploring a new area that I've never been to before and a new type of terrain potentially as well. And then as far as the Tesla is concerned, it just got to 80% because that's where it was when I was ready to go. I did charge up the car last night more than I normally would, just in anticipation of this trip. We don't keep our Tesla fully charged or even 90% typically, because we charge our Tesla largely from our RV during the summer. And so we need to keep the Tesla's battery low enough, because if it fills up, the RV electricity has nowhere to go. So I just basically make sure to keep some top end room in the Tesla's charge, and as long as we'll be doing just fine with the range that we have with where we need to go, then it's not an issue. If we were ever all of a sudden needing to go really maximum range, there are superchargers in our general area that we'd potentially have to go to top up on our way to that destination. Clearly, if we wanted to keep maximum range at all times, we could just keep the car charged up to 90%, but it's really very unnecessary to do that. And for me and my situation, it very much makes sense to not do that. In the future, when we have our Tesla Cybertruck, I'll be able to load up the Talaria into the back of the truck and plug it in and have it be charging while we drive, which will be cool. I won't generally expect to be relying on that overly much while we're driving en route somewhere, because it's better just to be prepared and charged up beforehand. And look at this drive. Got all the beautiful sunflowers all the way across this valley. We're gonna get there in about 2 minutes, and we have about 2.2 more miles to go. So that's the short distance we have. This is what the energy graph has looked like over the last 30 miles. So you can see 450 watt hours per mile. That's higher than usual, 300. Down here on this gray line, that is what we would normally expect to get in this car. And so looking over here, we're at 63% on the battery, and it's estimating that we'll get there with 62%. So that is showing an extra 3% of energy that was pulled out of the battery than what the computer expected, because the computer doesn't know we're towing. And right now we are going up a slight incline. You can see that reflected here on the energy graph here at the end. It's just starting to show. I am going to be tracking this ride with Strava, as I have with all my other rides. We'll see how much time we spend, how much energy it consumes over that time and distance. So if we look at the Talaria right now, the battery, like I said, is at 90%, and we're at 528 miles on the odometer. Definitely is a fun hangout spot. You can see there's lots of families here with their trailers and RVs even. Over here we've got a group with their canopy out, keep off the sun. As you probably saw in the Tesla, the temperature here is about 84 degrees today. So it's a little bit hot, but not terrible. We are heading off into the desert. I've seen these loops on the side of the mountain from the highways I've driven by in the past, but I've never been on them. It's my first time ever being here. It's probably the most water I've driven through too. And the Talaria's low-end torque comes in for the win. I need to air down the tires. I made it. Not pretty.
See, on stuff like that, though, that's where it really helps, is loose stuff like that, because you can just keep some pressure on it and go.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about killing it.
And the bike's pretty light, so if I do lose it, it's not hard to keep it under control. Look at all the trails up here. So very many. I love the view up here. I mean, no doubt it's a very dry desert landscape kind of a view, but it's still pretty. And there are variations of color and texture, and the mountains as a backdrop. Right down that way and straight in front of me, the white buildings you can see, a couple of those are data centers, I believe, for Facebook, and probably Amazon has a warehouse out here as well. If there's one thing that 5 Mile Pass has a lot of, it is big old whoopties on the side of mountainsides like this right here. I mean, other places have had them a little bit, but nothing as big as this, and or as many of these. They're lots of fun. As a status update, the Talaria is at 80% now, and we've gone 3.69 miles. So you might be able to extrapolate that it's 3.69 miles per 10%. However, I have found the top half of the Talaria battery gets more range than the bottom half. So take that in mind, into consideration. We've gone for 44 minutes so far. Not in love with the straight roads because then you can't get away from the dust. So far the dust hasn't been much of an issue because we've been playing around in smaller areas and not going really high speeds. That really turns up the dust since we have some kids here with us today. This shows that we've been going for an hour and 23 minutes and 6.12 miles. And obviously I've got my phone connected to my drone controller, and I'll show you some cool drone shots of this amazing dry desert landscape that I'm on the top of. Here's a spot of a little bit of dirt, single track. We're gonna check it out. It's definitely deep dust here. It's kind of squirrely. It's a fun little bit of a departure from the rest of the trail, which is so rocky. This is like deep dirt, dust, and a little bit of gravel mixed in. Whoa. It's tricky when you don't keep your momentum up. The electric vehicles makes it really easy though. Be a lot harder on the clutch. Alright, status update. We're at 2 hours and 52 minutes and we've gone 12.23 miles, and the battery on the Talaria is at 50%. But remember, we started at 90%, so it's used up 40% of the battery now, and the odometer is at 542 miles. This is the beautiful vista of desertscape that we're riding through. It's a beautiful stand of sunflowers here, overgrown over the trail. I got a prick in my finger. There we go. Here at the end of the ride, it ended up being 3 hours and 26 minutes at an average speed of 4.3 miles per hour, and we rode a total of 14.91 miles. On the Strava website, it shows that the moving time was 1 hour and 42 minutes, and then the elapsed time was 3 hours and 26 minutes. And that time that we were not moving, it was mostly just helping the kids. And then if we look down here at the map of that whole region, you can see this is where we were exploring, the red lines. And you can see there's a ton more trails all around this area to explore. It goes way up here into the mountains. And then we can go across the highway here on the south side, and there's that many more trails. So there's a huge, immense desert here to explore, and we just saw a tiny little piece of it. Down here it shows the elevation map of where we rode, and you can see on that map the blue dot moving around is showing where we were when we were at that elevation. So this gives you an idea of the elevation change of the whole ride. We had a fun time exploring this desert wasteland playground, and there are certainly many more miles of trails to explore out here. The type of riding of 5 Mile Pass isn't my favorite, as it's quite dry, dusty, and rocky, but it does have lots of fun jumps, steep challenging trail elements, and embankment riding. Personally, I prefer the alpine single track mountain riding, which tends to have more epic views and less dust, but I imagine I'll be back here riding again someday. I'm back in my incredibly dusty car after being in this parking lot for hours and hours with all these ATVs driving by. The Tesla battery is at 57%. Looking at the just drive stats coming up, we're heading back home, and it's estimating that we'll get there at 47% on the battery over 27 miles in 33 minutes. So let's see what it is when we get there. Our Model S works great for towing our small utility trailer with the Talaria on it with minimal range reduction. I could certainly fit additional bikes on this trailer, but I haven't needed to so far. I'm back home and the battery is at 41%. Both the Tesla and the Talaria worked great today, and I had a ton of fun driving both of them. I hope it was helpful to see all the stats and the details of how well this technology is working in my life, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.